Remember when Denza was a 50-50 joint venture between Mercedes-Benz and BYD, and they had a car that looked like an egg? Well, now that BYD own 90%, things are going a lot better. This is the Denza N7. Yes, this is the Denza N7, the second car since Denza's, let's call it a revitalization of the brand, since BYD took a 90% controlling stake. And unlike the first one, this is a full electric car. We've got the dual motor version of this. It is a 5-seat SUV. Denza will tell you it's a shooting brake. Not entirely sure I agree with that. I think we'll stick with SUV for this. But it's certainly come a long way since that egg-shaped Denza 500 from about 10 years ago, with a much more purposeful design, particularly these large flared fenders. They don't look so big from outside the car, but inside the car, you do see them. It does feel a little bit like you're behind the wheel of a Porsche 911 or something like that. Quite a purposeful design. As you can see, we've got sharp strakes down the bonnet, maybe a bit like power domes that you get from Mercedes-Benz, so it does feel a bit more kind of, a bit more aggressive. What I really like are these crystal Y details here in the headlamps and these strakes along the grille. Some people not so sure about these. I have to say, in person, I think they do look quite a bit better than they look on photographs. Anyway, but this car does represent how far Denza has come in the BYD group, because it's the first car to receive the DiSus S suspension. That means you get air suspension that can be raised for a more comfortable ride or lowered for a harder ride. And if I press the lock key on this car, you'll start to see the car does start to sink down on its haunches. See the front going down? And the back will go down. There you go. Now it feels much more purposeful, like it's actually started more of a race car. And you can adjust that inside. So if you want a more comfortable ride, raise it up. Want a more sporty ride, you can lower it down. From the side though, I have to say it's a fairly generic SUV. It does get a little bit more attractive around the back, so it's very simple design. Raised up at the side here. Pop-out door handles. One charging port on this side. There is another one on the other side. I'll explain why later. Down here, of course, got our 20-inch alloy wheels. You can get 19 or 20-inch alloys. These are an aero design, fairly nondescript, I would say, as most aero design alloys are. But yeah, it's all right from the front. Coming to the rear of the N7, I think this is probably the best angle of this car. It looks certainly more sporty. We've got more of a coupe-style roofline along there. Big flared haunches, quite sharp and crisp. It looks very dynamic, purposeful. Got an enormous rear spoiler here with a full-width brake light and a sort of a knacker duct in the top there to channel air underneath. That does mean though that we don't get a rear window wiper. So even though we've got more window space, more visibility than on an Xpeng G6, what we are lacking is anywhere to clean the rear window. But some cool details. I do like the lights here. This full width daytime running light does look a little bit derivative. Looks a bit like a Lamborghini or even a Voyage Jueguang. These details are quite similar to those on the Jueguang, but they are not unattractive. I'll notice again, there's our other charging port on the other side. We'll come back to that later. There's a lot of sporty elements here. Got fake air outlets on the side there. Got a diffuser down here with some sort of chrome or silvery colors to make it look a little bit more premium. And we have an electric tailgate, which you can open here. In here, notice there that the rear trunk went down, the suspension lowered to make it more accessible for us to get into. 480 litres of space in here, up to 1,200 if you fold the seats down. So not a massive trunk, but I mean, it's kind of sporty, kind of premium. Maybe you're not expecting that. You also get a plug in there, so you can plug out things, proper 220 volt outlet for, I don't know, a fridge when you go camping or a barbecue, something like that. And we've got our DVLA speaker system, but I'll talk more about that later. Yep, it's a pretty interesting car from the back. Okay, from the outside. Does it look as sporty and attractive on the inside? BYD Group's lineup is growing, as I mentioned earlier. So we've now got BYD, Denza, Fangchungbao and Yangwang at the top. So this one sits above BYD. What have they done to make this car feel more premium? They started with materials, and we've got quite a lot of those. So Nappa leather, on the steering wheel and on the chairs. That's good. We've also got leather up here on the top of the dashboard and in the doors. We've got soft surfaces inside the pockets, which I appreciate. Really good work there. We've also got real wood here on the dashboard and on the doors, and we've got real aluminium here as well, also covering your DVLA speakers in the door there, and we've got suede roof lining as well, which is great. So everything does feel premium to touch. Can't say I'm a big fan of the looks, the colour. This is a little bit too yellow for me, maybe a bit like it's been stained in a bar or something like that, so I probably wouldn't go for that one, but some people might like it. I don't know. Certainly it's better than a black interior, because it's a bit more lighter, more enjoyable. Now, we've also got a lot of screens. We've got a 10.25 inch screen on this side and one on that side as well. This one you can watch videos and TV, things like that. My wife has been enjoying that one quite a lot. She also likes that it's a bit smaller because it's comfortable for your eyes when you sat in the front seat. As well as that one, you get a big 17.3 inch screen here in the middle. I think it's on 8155 because it certainly runs quite smooth. It's very quick. You also get this great functionality down at the bottom that I like, where you can just drag your ventilation from the bottom row there, and if you want to go into it, of course, you can adjust it all in here. You can change your seats. So we've got heated steering wheel, great for winter, ventilation, heating and massage on the front chairs, and heating on the back row. Again, everyone's going to appreciate that. What I would say is the menus are a little bit complicated, so most of your car functions are down here after these other things, and there's quite a lot of stuff going on here, a lot of things to click on, so you need to get quite familiar with your system. Also runs on 5G, which is great, so we do get a nice quick system there. We've also got a 50-inch augmented reality heads-up display directly in front of us, probably the biggest that I've seen so far, and it's very clear, very bright. Do like having that there. It's a very useful feature, and it'll be supported by, you know, the D Pilot and things, but the little arrows that show you where you're going, they work out quite effectively on there. Not everything is quite as good as that. This area in particular for me is the biggest weakness. I mean, this is a crystal gear selector, that's totally fine. They've put it down here rather than up here, so it does take up a bit more space in this area. But the worst part are these buttons here. So they're almost impossible to see in the daytime. You need to really have a look at them. At night time they're a little bit more visible, but in the daytime it's very, very difficult in bright light to see what you're looking at. What I do like though is that you get twin 50-watt wireless fast chargers with ventilation as well. Excellent. We get quite a lot of space in here. We also get space in the doors, under the dashboard there, in the center console, and we get a glove box. So you're totally covered for your space needs. Sound, premium audio. We get DVLA. DVLA, the French premium audio manufacturer, they've started providing speakers for the Denza brand, and we've got 16 of those in this car. 2 in the bottom of the doors, 2 up here, 2 on the A-pillars. We've got 4 in the roof, 1 at the back there, and a big bass unit in the boot as well. Good sound system, that we really quite like that one. Other cool things about the vents, by the way, while I move on. Cool things and maybe not so cool things. You do get little LCD screens here, just in the middle of the vents, where you can see what the temperature is and what the vent speed is. Now on different sides of the car, we get different controls embedded into the wood. So on my side, I've got a button that I'm not entirely sure what it does. Something to do with the ventilation. But then we've got 2 buttons here for making your temperature hotter and colder. On that side, you get the option to change your vent speed as well. You don't get that option on this side, so I have to do this on the screen. They can do it by touching the wood. But again, very difficult to see in daylight. At night time, maybe you can see them. It feels like it's a nice thought, but maybe something that's not entirely necessary. Steering wheel is your standard fare. You've got your gloss black plastic buttons. Can't say I like those too much. Get your autonomous driving stuff on this side, but that's not working on our car today. 360-degree camera, so you can do all that in here. You can also do 3D, spin around your car. You can see that's working pretty quickly there. The driving position in this car is quite good. We get a manually adjustable steering, and we've got 8-way adjustability on this front seat here. The bonus being that we get an extending base cushion, which is great. The only thing I would like a little bit more of maybe is just a little bit more tilt, just so you can get a little bit more cosseted and be a bit closer to that steering wheel, because it doesn't have the most reach on it. We also get on this side kind of a princess chair, so you can lift up the leg rest on that side. This person can lay back, really chill out and watch their little 10.25-inch screen over there. So it's all good up front, and on sunny days we've got a panoramic roof for extra brightness on the interior, and if you want to keep the sun out, got an electric sun blind as well. Very key, we like that. Here in the back, we don't quite have Li Auto levels of entertainment systems going on, but we do get plenty of space. So loads of footroom there. That chair is as low as it will go. So loads of space for your feet, even with boots or something like that. Got lots of headroom and loads of legroom. In fact, we have over 80 centimeters of space there. So plenty of room in the back. And we also can lower our chairs, our seat angle, to relax a little bit more. And that is actually quite comfortable, particularly with these Denza lumbar cushions that you get in the back seats there. They're just soft enough to really sort of fill that gap between your back and make it feel a lot more comfortable to lie back, given that the seat back is usually quite flat on the backs of cars. Now we do get heating on both sides, as I mentioned. We've also got ventilation here, got USB-C and USB sockets down there, and of course the customary armrest with twin cup holders. For a second I thought I saw USB-C on that, but no. Yeah, comfortable, spacious, and a lot of premium materials too. Now here's something really interesting about charging with the Denza N7. One gun, totally ordinary, right? It's what you would expect. And with one gun, you'll get 150 kilowatts of charging. But something you can do differently with this one is you can double gun it. Having two guns at the same time, you can get up to 230 kilowatts of charging. 150, fairly slow, but with 230, that's quite reasonable. Now, our second one isn't working today, but if you have a look in here, you'll see the proof of that. Here on the dashboard, you see we have A and B. A is the one on the right side, that's currently working. B, oh, we've just got 100%. So B was the one that was not working. But there you go. Something that I haven't seen on any other car before. Quite interesting, right? Like all electric cars, the N7 does come with a significant amount of performance as well. Single motor versions will get you 230 kilowatts on the rear axle, 360 Newton meters of torque, and the dual motor version like we have will give you a front motor of 160 kilowatts and 310 Newton meters of torque for a combined 390 kilowatts and 670 Newton meters of torque. And that is plenty quick enough. On the single motor version, it'll do 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 6.6 seconds, and on the dual motor version, it will do the same thing in 3.9 seconds. It is pretty blisteringly quick, actually, but what I do like about the Denza is the way that it puts that power down. There's something about it that does feel quite smooth. All electric cars are generally quite linear because of the torque curve, but the N7 does have a really sort of swift, very brief application, and it does feel pretty rapid straight out of the box. In terms of the steering, actually, that's quite sporty as well and does come with quite a bit of feel. I felt a noticeable difference between this car and the Xpeng G6 that I had before. I had the G6 on the hardest steering setting, and this one already felt considerably harder. It does feel like it's got quite a lot of feel, and that I think is down to the fact that we have some pretty whizzy suspension on this car. We have the DiSus S suspension, which is BYD's in-house developed air suspension with continuous damping control. Also comes with intelligent air body control, intelligent torque control, and intelligent drift control. Now I'm a responsible driver, so I can't do the drifting on the roads, but overall the handling is pretty good. What I would say though is the ride could certainly be quite a bit better than it is. I found that over particularly harsh surfaces where there's breaks in the road or things like that, you do feel it quite a bit. It does come through the cabin. It doesn't feel particularly well set up to, to damp out those issues, which is what you might expect to have in a premium car, so you don't get that. The other thing is also that it's also not super firm, because when you go over roads that have sort of longer frequency bumps, sort of more lollopy roads, you do find the car doing a bit of sort of waterbed, so it kind of like it's kind of rocking backwards and forwards. It does feel a little bit, I don't know, it's not quite getting either of the two things. I said sporty, it works out pretty well, but in terms of just the general ride comfort, not so much. Steering feel is quite good. Now, in terms of batteries, we get all versions of the N7 get a 91.3 kilowatt hour Blade battery. So that's the same Blade battery, of course, developed by BYD. That will get you a reasonable range of 630 kilometers on the dual motor version that we have, and up to 702 on the single motor version. Have to say, in practice, it's not really close to that at all. CLTC is generous anyway, we know that. in many cases in previous cars we've tested, CLTC is about 65 to 75% of the actual figures that you will get. But this car, I think, is not the most efficient in terms of use of power. Driving around in urban settings, we're currently getting about 19 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. On the motorway yesterday, we were doing 120, sometimes 100, depending on the speed limit, and we were getting about 24 to 25, which is quite excessive. That is a lot of energy use. And I also did a little test where we drove that exact same part. We did 40 kilometers and the range went down by about 65, so it's using quite a bit more power than certainly you might expect. So take the CLTC figures with quite a heavy pinch of salt. Well, the N7, despite being quite a reasonably large car, doesn't feel like such a massive car. It is quite easy to place, and I think that's because it's slightly narrower than some of the bulkier competitors in this area. It has a length of 4.86 meters. It is 1.935 meters wide, has a height of 1.605 meters, and a wheelbase of 2.94 meters, which means that you do get quite a bit of space in between the rear axles, and it gives you quite a lot of space in the back. Also, you get those adjustable backrests, so it does feel quite pleasant back there. Competition for the N7 looks like the Hi-Fi Z, the Neo ES6, and the Li Auto L7. That means that we are going up against them with similar price tags as well. The N7 starts at 319,800 RMB. I'll give you currency translations at the bottom, and rises for the full beans version, let's call it, which is what we're driving now, is the 379,800 RMB. And yeah, it does feel like a big, sporty car. Now, one other thing to mention that we do get in terms of autonomous driving, you should get a level 2.5 system on this car. It's called D-Pilot, I believe. It's not activated on our car. It will be activated in August. So yeah, unfortunately we haven't been able to try that. Apparently, there will also be the option to have twin LiDAR units on this car. I'm not entirely sure where they're going to go. I haven't seen them yet on a concept, but apparently there is the option of twin LiDAR units to come. But yeah, D-Pilot will allow you to do all the usual things, the adaptive cruise control and so on, but unfortunately we don't get the chance to test that today. Okay, so that's it for our review of the N7. Does it hit the mark as a premium car? On the whole, I would say yes. The performance is excellent. The interior has a great choice of materials, lots of high quality materials. Also the DVLA sound system, the extra screens in there, and of course the air suspension. But it does miss the mark in some areas too, the air suspension being one of them. Sometimes it's too hard, sometimes it's too soft, can't quite do the two things at the same time. Sometimes the parts of the interior are a little bit fussy, but overall it's an excellent car, and I think it looks quite sporty, and in that sense it does offer something different from the competitors in this segment, such as the Neo ES6 and the Li Auto L7. If you're a bit more personal focused and you like that sporty feel, this car will probably do it for you, and I would say it's decent value as well. Thank you for watching, and if you do, thank you for subscribing, and we'll catch you next time.